My friends, I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm super excited being here with you today. And as you know, these shots of inspiration are very dear to my heart and close to you, hopefully, as well, to inspire yourself, to learn something new. And especially in these times when things, as I usually say, are a bit turbulent and when we try to find focus, try to find how to ground ourselves, we need to connect with others. So I would encourage you right off the bat here on my left, probably on your right, up corner, please. Scan the QR code, connect with me on LinkedIn if you need anything, help, some advice or somewhere, just really new inspiration, or just generally, some advice around marketing, sales, and how to connect and network with others. Please reach out. I'm more than happy to help out. Today, I have some special topic prepared for you, and that's because I feel, especially now, in still being in Q1, start of the year, we can think about how to build our lives. And that means often going back to reclaiming our focus and how to transform this focus and especially loss, I would call that really, into strategic vision. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, many of us have gone through heaps and hoops to really be where we are today. We are very proud of that, right? Because we had to go up, down, left, right. We were running often to the east to look for the sun when we should be running actually to the west. And sometimes these things tend to have some consequences. Sometimes short term, sometimes long term. But generally, these consequences are about learning and about improving ourselves. And as we talk about learning and improving ourselves, also before we jump into today's topic, I want to give you a book that I'm reading right now from Yuval Noah Harari, The Nexus. A brief history of information network from the Stone Age to AI. I know, especially now, because I'm, in my usual day to day a lot on the tech side, exposed to these different technologies in automotive, also in AI. And, we have really clients that are looking into this. But what I like about this book, not to subtract, is it compares really, where we come from, how we are as human beings, what we have learned so far, and also just, bits and pieces about how we connect as human beings, right? The different networks and why story is important to us and how message, people can connect to something just like this, right? You can be watching this from, Africa or Asia. You might not even know who I am, but some sentence or word will resonate with you and you think like, wow, there is this guy sitting by himself in a room and talking to me from the other side of the world. But that's the beauty of information. And it is really important nowadays for us to ground ourselves. And just like I said, a few sentences ago, what brought us here was probably very good and good strategies we used, and they made us successful, and we are very proud of that. And I want you to celebrate, every time you watch this, just to pat yourself on the shoulder massively. Especially now, many companies, right? They looking into their Q1 or even in their last, FII 20, 4, and looking at, okay, where have I been? What have I accomplished? Or whatever year. And usually many people and companies are looking at their profit and loss, their EBITDA, and how far have they come. They, think about their bonuses. And I feel we can look in our lives exactly from the same perspective. Many people obviously do this exercise already when they finish the year. I tend to do that usually Q4, and then Q1 I'm looking at what is the focus. And since probably like many of you, the start might be a little bit slower just because the planning is coming in. You're thinking about where you're gonna go on holidays, what you're gonna do, where you're gonna focus. It is not always so easy to really recenter and find your footing and stable ground. And that's what today's focus topic is about. It's really reframing our focus and reframing what we have done so far, and many times how we are and how we define ourselves is because of loss and what we have lost, and instead reshaping that into what have I learned, what brought me here, and how can I actually use that strategy that maybe worked to keep working, improving, and getting further, and what brought me here that didn't work so far. We usually don't want to look at, right? Because we are afraid that things are gonna be repeating themselves, that things will, again, we will do the same mistakes, we will be embarrassed, we will screw the presentation, and that we will not be able to open up in front of our partner as we would like, because we are ashamed of our past mistakes. And that's what I want you today, a little bit, to use this as a springboard to really think, okay, I have done this in my life. And if you are like me, you have, pen, you have some post-its or some paper, write some notes down. And I tend to do that usually digitally as well. That's totally fine, because I think it's really important for us to capture the lessons. And usually when you watch this, I hope you have some time to just take some notes and reflect, because with these videos I really want you to reflect a little bit on yourself, on your journey. And I have to tell you that in my life, especially now, because this is a very important topic, especially as we go in the year, thinking what have you really enjoyed and what have you enjoyed less. We somehow barrel throughout our life without really thinking how and what and where and when, and we just kind of follow the crowd. And that's also what this you will know Noah Harari and other people talk about. We are type of individuals and society that follows usually in their footsteps, and we build on what other people did. And sometimes that's what also Steve Jobs says, right? I think there was a video somewhere from 90s 91 maybe, or maybe 1998, I don't recall now. But when we were starting, he also said, it is up to us to poke in the things that other humans build and in life generally, and something else will pop out on the other side. And so these topics that I'm telling you and my mumbling and rumbling, again, it might be that nothing resonates, but what I want these sessions to be is that it serves a little bit as a haven for you. You come back and okay, well, I want to be stronger, I want to be happier, and I want to have more energy. And these topics, if not well taken care of, you will lose your footing, and that's can happen really quickly. It happens to me, happens to all of us, just because life happens, right? You're busy, you have busy season, you have meetings, you have strategy sessions, go to market sessions to deliver, and then from there somehow everything, suddenly you wake up half a year later and you're really unhappy and miserable, and we want to avoid that. And that's where thinking about your losses, if you will, and we all have done something that we are not so proud about, and mistakes and stuff. But at the same time, in this fast-paced world, this is really easy to get carried away, and the weight of achievements sometimes out can especially if the time is tough, can be less than the missed opportunities. And I feel as human beings, we tend to just generally gravitate towards the missed opportunities, and we somehow forget that it's not the success that is behind us, it's what is next. And this is also, again, want to encourage you, if you, just like me, need this inspiration, please connect on LinkedIn. I'm posting things I try to do daily, be diligent with different things, resharing from different people, but also some of my own stuff, like books that I'm reading, and connect, and happy to connect you somewhere. But we need this regular reminder to stay at the peak of our game. And the first things that I want to talk about today, guys, is really the professional nostalgia. I already hinted at that we as human beings, we tend to think that what we have accomplished defines us, and it's partly true and partly does, and we should be celebrating that. The thing is, I've met a lot of people who are very proud how they are, and that they did that, and that they have accomplished that they totally forget to remember that there were other people who actually maybe brought them there, and that achievements and the pivotal moments, if you will, are not only everything that defines their career. Yes, they shape their careers, and thoughts, I would say, are powerful things, but sometimes they can cloud our judgment as well. It can, be generally not always a good idea to put our attention only on memories, because they pull away our focus on what's next. And if you are spending time with me, you will notice that I'm big guy about future, about what's next, how can we navigate that. And so think about, even with yourself, where you at, and how you can redefine the next milestone in your life. Think about people like astronauts, right? They return from the mission, they've seen the earth from the space, and what really happens really quickly is that people lose their purpose, just because they feel like if they cannot return anymore. And I write a few stories like that, that people just generally really lose their sense of life, because that this sense of purpose was so big to go into space, and they achieved it, and then there is nothing else. And sometimes our professional life can be like that. Maybe we join this Fortune 500 company, and or we move market, and then suddenly we realize we have to start again from the peak of from the foundation, and join some b company or hidden champion that we don't care about. And this can really dawn on our self-esteem, and because we are so fixated on we have to be here and we have to be there. And then what becomes really hard is when this happens multiple times, and our thought process kind of stays the same, that we so focus on what we have lost rather than what we have gained, becomes double-edged sword, because we are so fixated on what we have lost that we forget to focus and be grateful, really, for what is ahead of us. And let me give you a little example as well. In my own life, I have been quite guilty of this, just because, where I come from, Eastern Europe, humble beginnings, I grew up on a farm. So there was a lot of time, just a lot of work, struggle. Success was not guaranteed, and failure was, if you will, if you can define it like that. And I was very quickly becoming a young man who knew that hard work is something that will never go away. And not that I always liked it, but it was just the way my life was. And as I was growing up, and I tried to prove myself in where I was living, right? But then as I moved abroad or internationally, I was fueled by this desire to prove people wrong and to show them who am I. And my answer to a lot of these things was just pounding the keyboard like a crazy gorilla. I just sometimes tell to my partner and laugh about that, and chase deadlines and think about, the value of output. And when I stepped away, and that's where, many years ago, I met my partner, and she was into, or she's still into, this whole traveling thing. And I'm really grateful for that, because I learned through travel and through visiting countries how important it is to see different perspectives, but also see yourself from a different perspective. So those moments when I traveled and I felt like something is missing, often I figured that it was my addiction to, my workaholism or my addiction to work. And when I stepped away, I just couldn't relax. It was really sad and a bit sometimes frustrating, and took a lot of trips and a lot of patience on my partner's side to just think, like, this guy, will he ever be able to disconnect? So think about, professional nostalgia is fine, and I think it's healthy in some way and sense, if you remind yourself what you have accomplished so far, and where have you learned the most, and where what mistakes you shouldn't be repeating. But again, remember, just like myself, the workhorse trap, as I call it, and sacrificing the present moment for being with your partner, being with your kids, reminding yourself that life is actually about creating special moments and special bonds, and that cannot happen if you're just focused on professional nostalgia. The answer to that little bit, and I feel as well, you know in my life and in your life, moving forward, it's answer to everything. And I love this slogan from Nike, just do it. I just had a friend who or have a friend and had this discussion about, moving forward. And, sometimes life throws setbacks at us, whether that's, we have a shipment of, I just had I heard a good friend of mine, and she just shipped something from one country to another. And then, a couple of months it arrived later full of mold. And, now she's trying to get, and claim everything back with the insurance company. But imagine, you still can be doing everything totally right and still feel like, hey, I'm still focused on a, forward momentum and motion of my feelings to, manifest what I really want to accomplish. So understanding what is going on, and still, it can be really hard. And that's why somehow my answer to a lot of this is finding profound experiences without escaping the planet, if you will. I mentioned the astronauts who return back from their mission, and they need to repurpose, they need to reshape how they are thinking, right? Maybe it is that they will want to go into politics, or they will want to go into some meaningful roles to change our planet or change our earth. And I don't believe that you have to really escape the planet and, just like Elon Musk or other people believe that we will colonize Mars one day, and maybe it will happen. But what we should be thinking is about, and my partner reminds me, she's like, when I ask her, hey, do you want to go to space, and she's like, no, you're crazy. No, I want to, there is so much to see on our planet Earth. And I feel like a lot of just traveling, as I mentioned, can be really life altering if you realize, like just like one country many years ago I visited was Philippines. And there I just realized, just my whole stupidness, if you will, just chasing money and chasing fame and chasing all, just the next role and next promotion. And then you see people in their flip-flops and just walking around and being super happy and smiling. And I'm like, yeah, here in the West, ask people. Yes, they will tell you on paper that's like a good objective, but can they really live that? So I like these challenges, and I like in my memory palace, if you will, just to play these different play out, or no, play these scenarios in my head and then see how they play out. Um, so think about, how these experiences could be catalysts for the forward motion, right? And I think this is also somehow, and it's very interesting because these things are part of our internal portfolio. So sometimes we need to really look at, who am I and what am I and where am I going? And sometimes these things again can hold us back when we look at it from, oh, me, and this happened to me. Remember, the whole theme of today is reframing the loss. It's about resilience, and it's about not just the state that you're in one time. It's a state that you need to be in pretty much all your life, right? And I believe that human beings are resilient. I believe that we all have this capability of becoming stronger on the other side, or building muscle and, being stronger, having better health and not being sick so often. But again, it's about keeping the forward motion. It's this central notion in your head that you are like, okay, I have to be keeping with my future vision and not with the Jonases of this world and people what they say. So how can you do that? The kind of the third pillar that I want to give you guys is really looking at building new experiences, right? It's how can you shift from what you have accomplished, acknowledge that, and think like, okay, I like that, but how can you shift into another gear, be like, I want to build something new. And that means also reframing your memories into tools of progress, as I call it. So you think on one side of your achievements, your experiences, and as assets and kind of diamond in your dynamic portfolio. And then you analyze it as and document them as a value. And at the same time, you resist the urge to cling to them and to, be just focused only on those memories of as a source of your identity. And remember as well at the same time that nostalgia, as I mentioned, is not a strategy, but it's a place where, you store your memories. But strategy is really about progress. It's about the memories that you use to inspire action and innovation. So revisit the old victories. And that's why I said, have your pen and paper and think about, okay, why these things were important to me and how did I accomplish them. And now, that's maybe half of the paper on, the left side, and the second half you make, okay, when you put a line in the middle, okay, on the right side, what are the future things I want to accomplish and how will I get them done. And that also means that you focus really again and keep in mind the execution. How do I get it done? How can I get it done? And how can I done this time better than before? And that also means, just like I said, and you heard the theme a little bit in the wording before, I said a lot. I know, I apologize. But it's about anchoring yourself in the present moment. And I know that this is a central theme for a lot of the religion teachings, and Buddhism talks about this, and different Christianity, and we need to really remember that being present, it's not just about I'm here, I'm doing the thing. It's really about this more deeper internal realization that things we are doing actually have an impact, and regardless of what is the outcome of that impact, it's really about being here and now, and that you can be fully enjoying being fully alive, if you will, or energetic, that you can be fully grateful for what's happening in your life right now, regardless of whether it has some far reaching consequences in the future. And this is hard for us to do because we like to, just like me, being future telling and future oriented and live in the future. And sometimes you forget so much to enjoy the little moments, because the little moments are actually the future that's happening. And how can you do it? It's really about the last pillar that I want to give you guys, focusing on inspiration. I believe that focusing on inspiration means being a leader with an edge, being a learner, and turning this vision into legacy. That means that you step outside yourself, you understand the opportunities that lie ahead of you, you execute, you learn new strategies, and maybe reshape your focus, your goals. Embrace the truth as well of why you do things, that it's not just for the sake of money, fame, but it's really something bigger than that. Not just building, a golden statue, because in the end you can do it. And I hope maybe if that's your inspiration to do it, but it's not the end of, and the end game, if you will. It's really about opening eyes, in your eyes, to the opportunities around you, where you want to go, what you want to be, who you want to become as a human being, meaning your character, your values, and refine your strategy and purpose to play bigger, right? Because going back to why we are here, the world needs you, right? You are here because something in the universe happened and decided you should be here, whether you believe in God or universe or energy. And I think the future isn't generally just a place we should be heading to without any thinking, but something we should be actively building. And what I learned from my career is that even if you plan and if you focus, it still will not always become, or your future will not always become as you describe it to yourself. And sometimes it becomes something greater than what you expected. And often it becomes something more profound, and maybe not even exactly in a shape and a form you would expect, and maybe becomes way this thing that comes to you way later. But at the same time, when you are patient and you focus again on the legacy that is worth remembering, which means be more, share more, create more value for other people around you, as Tony Robbins says, and other people and teachers, it is important that you focus really again to inspire. And you cannot be inspired yourself if you don't believe in this. And when you inspire yourself, you can inspire others. That means waking up every morning, having your routine dialed down, looking at your goals, having some type of tools to remind you, watching things like this, reading things that, create a positive force and momentum for you. So I really want to thank you, because I know you could be doing something better with your time, but I really hope it reaches you at the right time in your life. And maybe you watch it now, maybe in 1 week, maybe in 1 year, but when you visit that and you see that, you remember that things are really happening as they're supposed to. And when students ready, teacher appears. So go out there and be smart about your time. Be smart about how you're spending your days, and bring a little bit more energy into the days. That means taking care of yourself, right? Exercise, juice. Make sure that you focus on some type of mindfulness, and really focus on optimism, because optimism is really needed now more than ever, especially in the world when we see mobs and extremists rising to power. And we don't always maybe agree with that, and that's even in our position maybe not so much we can do about. Yet we shouldn't be resting on our laurels doing nothing. We should be working on ourselves and impacting the world and make it better. So I want to thank you again for being you, for being inspiration. Take the next week, and really dial it down on yourself, and make sure that you go out there and you help people, make them better, make yourself better. And remember, the world needs you. The world really needs brave people, bold people, gutsy people who set their goals just a little bit ahead. Take the spear of opportunity and throw it, and then run. You come there, you might be surprised that it took you actually way longer than you wanted, which is usually the case. But never lose the sight of the progress. So until the next time, my friends, stay legendary. If there are any questions, please again remind you, connect with with me, and please share it with three of your friends if you can. I have been doing as well different initiatives now, especially as we start the new year. Launching an app, the Mr. Positive, so you can check it out. Still some hiccups on the Android side, which usually takes a little bit longer, but you can, if have iPhone, download that. And there is also a newsletter I'm launching now February, which is the Shots of Inspiration. So you can also visit that. And yeah, stay awesome. Until the next time, my friends, stay legendary. Bye bye.